Bitcoin dominance has fallen nearly 4.5% over the past couple weeks, and the real question is it alt season? When alt season? When alt season is the question of the day, of course. We might even talk a little bit about total market cap as well, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum too, and then, of course, maybe even some Bitcoin action. You know it's a boring day. You know it's a damn boring day when we're talking about all of this nonsense other than Bitcoin. But in this case, it's all that we got today. So I do want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It is a lovely... It's actually not so great of a day this morning. It's kind of dreary outside, to be quite frank with you, on this Tuesday morning here. But there are several things to discuss. So let's waste no more time. Let's just jump right on into it. Start off with the big chart of the day, Bitcoin dominance. So I think a lot of people who are more altcoin focused are very, very happy with the developments of the past few weeks here, seeing as we have seen about a 4.5%, nearly a 4.5% move to the downside off of the highs on the Bitcoin dominance chart, meaning that altcoins in general getting a nice reprieve versus their Bitcoin Satoshi parents. Now, this was kind of an intended area, or around this region was a good area that we were looking at for a pullback based off of the breakout, just simply because of that 200 moving average that you do see right here, that white moving average, which I will highlight with my brush. Where's my damn brush? There it is. Found it. Lovely. Anyways, as you can see, there's a lot of other drawing tools on this chart as well. And of course, what I would say is that alt season, if you are looking for the question of when would it start? When would it start? Well, if you're, again, specifically looking at altcoin Bitcoin parents, meaning that altcoins would be outpacing Bitcoin, then that would not be a topic of conversation I'd be willing to entertain, especially as long as Bitcoin is above the breakout point at about 49% right here on Bitcoin dominance, meaning that if Bitcoin does come back down below 49%, or if you want to get super exact, let's actually call it 48.5%, and closes a weekly below there, I do look at this as just, a healthy and actually well expected pullback before likely continuation to the upside into the deeper 50% region, probably closer to 58%, I would imagine, over the next 4 to 6 months. So I do believe that this is kind of just, your initial pullback after the breakout. But can it pull back a little bit more? Yeah, it can certainly pull back a little bit more. Somewhere down to 49 or 40.5 is certainly not out of the question here. But for right now, we've already seen a good chunk of that move, I suspect, already happen. Again, long term, this nice W bottom right here is aligning with a measured move based upon that formation, somewhere around about 58 to 59% on this chart. And then also just long term, if you're looking at chart formations, we do have the old Adam and Steve bottom with the very sharp reversal right here, and then a more rounded reversal right here, as we can see. So in this case, I do expect that this one does still travel upwards and onwards over the next 4 to 6 months. Maybe it takes a year, who knows? But in my opinion, the real question is, how high does it get? Does it get into the into the deep 50s? I think the very, 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 very likely. Does it get into the mid 60s? I think also quite likely. Does it get into the 70s? That's where I think things become a little bit more questionable, and probably where it starts to diverge from like the super Bitcoin maximalists who just want to see altcoins all die. I'm not really of that opinion. I imagine that some altcoins are going to be massively successful. In fact, they certainly will be. I just don't know which one they are, and I don't really care, to be quite frank with you as well. But fair enough. Anyways, so while on the weekly, we could see a little bit more on this pullback, mainly designated by the ever so slightly bearish divergence on the weekly R side right here. It's very, 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 very minimal, I should add. And then the weekly jewel also pointed down for the first potential time this week. Since a while. I do expect that we are in a bit of a corrective move, or not we, but Bitcoin dominance chart is a bit of a corrective move here as it does trade and kind of fill out the range again, maybe even as far down to 48.5, but that would be the very specific area where, as long as Bitcoin dominance is above 48.5% on a weekly closing basis, no altcoin season. Very, 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 very likely trade upwards and onwards from here, as higher term timeframes, are, for lack of a better term, fucking bullish. Monthly right here, I think kind of speaks for itself. And we can even go to the quarterly as well. Same thing. Even they got that bullish divergence come off the lows, which I do expect will at least get a move somewhere up around the 21 here, which is 55.5 as of current. Sorry, 55.5% as of current, I should add. 4 month time frame. Actually, it's not even closing this month, so maybe not even worth talking about right here. But more longer term, I do expect that this one probably gets closer to 60 60% before we do entertain the possibilities of a major macro reversal. Until then, short-term downside moves are likely that, just short-term downside moves where altcoins play a bit of catch-up with Bitcoin as Bitcoin essentially trades sideways. And that's exactly what we have actually for Bitcoin. Maybe we'll cover it a little bit later, but before that, I do want to get into some more total market cap nonsense over here. Again, it's a damn boring day when we're talking about this kind of shit. So this is just regular total market cap, including everything. That's including, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all stable coins of all shapes and sizes. And then yes, every last shitcoin that you could possibly imagine. And in this case, I would still be looking at this as actually likely to trade sideways and up from here. Again, keeping in mind that it includes all these things. So that would imply long-term, the market in general probably does have higher to go over these next few weeks, I suspect. Still looking at this as another higher low in a series of higher lows, and still looking at, do I have it on the chart? Yes, indeed, the 1.25 trillion marker as sort of that next major boss, if you will, meaning that if we can see total market cap start to get above 1.25 trillion, then I would be looking for the next major breakout, probably closer to 1.5 trillion at the 50% read, and if things get really, really crazy longer term, then well, a lot more than that. But for right now, one thing at a time. Obviously, weekly Jewel is continuing with its upside momentum, also about to get above that that slower moving oscillator and supported by DMI. So I do like that. And basically, here's kind of like the crux of the message. As long as total market cap is generally speaking above 1.13 trillion, or let's just call it 1.4 trillion on a weekly closing basis, this will inevitably be seeing all these things kind of cross in a more upside fashion, and that's probably leading to the next breakout. Basically, in my experience, when you do see price action, or in this case, this chart, grind up against long-term resistance or long-term support for that matter, works both ways. Usually speaking, it's gonna break within that region. Might not be on that exact move, on that exact tick. There might even be a pullback. That's completely fine as well. But longer term, very, very likely to break. As typically speaking, you don't get two chances to sell the high, and you don't get two chances to buy the low. Just generally speaking. Yes. Okay. So that is just general total market cap. We go over here and check out total market cap excluding Bitcoin. We can see that the chart immediately looks significantly weaker. So again, that is why I do say that altcoins in general not going to be operating all that well. I maintain my long-term position that the altcoins that I think people are looking for to, really go moon mission and beyond, those won't be born until we really truly see like the next cycle. It won't be. It is very unlikely to be the old ones. Maybe a few of them survive. Maybe a few of them go to the moon and beyond. And I'm sure it's definitely yours in the comment section as well, especially with all the scammer comments. Talking about fucking AMZ token. But yeah, probably less likely just in general. And again, right here, we do see a series of lower highs still, actually. So while I do suspect that, this chart likely does have a little bit more short-term upside, I would be looking for lower highs somewhere around 620 billion to maybe as much as like 650 billion, somewhere around there would kind of be fair game. Still not bullish without Bitcoin as long as you're below about 700 billion. Now we can even take this one step further and exclude, that was also excluding the stablecoins as well. But we can also take this one step further and exclude Bitcoin, stablecoins, and Ethereum as well. And the chart gets even more weak, as you would expect. I mean, again, this chart probably does trade a little bit more to the upside from here. You got a nice double bottom coming off these last lows. You got weekly Jewel pointed up in a nice actually pretty strong fashion right there. And generally speaking, it looks like this corrected bounce probably wants to play in for a little bit more. But just like the last chart, we do see again a series of lower highs here, and I would be on kind of lower high watch as long as this one's below about 375 billion to maybe as much as 390 billion. Certainly not bullish long term as long as we're as long as it is operating below about, what is this? Do I even have a chart here? No, I don't. But below about 450 billion. So you can kind of see the varying degrees of strength within this market. Obviously, Bitcoin comes first, then you got Ethereum, and then you got a shit ton of nameless altcoins, it looks like here as well. So short term, again, I actually do think a lot of these things are going to try a more upside move, but but it's very clear when looking at these charts that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two strongest. Bitcoin first, Ethereum second, and then it won't really be until they have had their time in the sun where we might see something like this break out. Typically, the junk rallies last. Sorry, did I say that? I mean, your highly esteemed piece of technology might rally later on. How's that? Anyways, so not really a whole hell of a lot right there. I think we can just briefly go over Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin 4-hour time frame, its ranges are the same. We got to test to the downside of the of the range lows at about 29.5, 29.6, and a nice bounce from that. And basically right back around the average, a little bit below the average, which is currently about 30,300. I do want to add, however, that the setup that we were looking at yesterday on the 3-hour time frame, this is now going to turn into a more probabilistic setup for the downside. Why do I say that? Because as we went over, the average amount of time in the winning trades was 25 bars. 25 bars on a 3-hour time frame is 75 hours. That's basically 3 days, and this one fired off a little bit more than 3 days ago now. And as we can see, the average amount of bars in losing trades was 29. So the longer that this goes on, the more and more likely it is to be a failure. And as of right now, it is 27 bars from that setup given, and we're working on about day number 3.5 right now. So yeah, going to be more likely to break down here actually. In fact, I can even take that one step further, go over here to just a regular Bitcoin chart. We do see that the daily jewel is actually pretty downside postured as well. So yeah, I'm actually starting to look at this as a lot more likely to break to the downside. Still want to see it obviously break below the range lows. These have been, like 5 week long range lows here at about 29.5, 29.6 region. So as soon as that happens, as soon as I see a closure below there, I would be looking for next move, probably somewhere down to 28.5, maybe 28 even, and then come back to it after that. Yeah, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this video yet again. As always, I'd like to wish you the best on this very eventful Tuesday. As expected, we got some more waiting to do. But yeah, with that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully Wednesday.